Good evening and thank you very much for making time for us for this edition of Channel One News Hour. My name is Edward Kabasa. We have a comprehensive bulletin lined up for you tonight, plus, of course, some good news for a section of Kenyans. We have those details for you. But first, let's have the highlights.
Therefore, effective tomorrow, Tuesday, the 29th of September 2020, the nationwide dusk to dawn curfew will run from 11 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning.
It is another 60 days. President Uhuru Kenyatta extends nationwide curfew for 2 months from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. with bars to open doors. The teachers are back, but schools to remain closed as the president seeks assurance of the safety of learners before reopening.
Pika nimepata wametoka wakikutana nao wananiambia leo tufanye kazi, wenzetu wakituona tukifanya kazi wanaweza leta shida.
And services at Kenyatta National Hospital disrupted as staff down tools demanding better pay. Once again, thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Channel One News Hour. Lenso Dingo is handling the sign language interpretation for us tonight. President Uhuru Kenyatta has extended the dusk to dawn curfew by a further 60 days with effect from Tuesday, the 29th of this month. The head of state, however, varied the curfew hours from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., ending at 4 a.m. Addressing the nation as he closed the COVID-19 conference, President Kenyatta further lifted the ban on the sale of alcohol, allowing bars to reopen but close at 10 p.m. But learning institutions will have to wait before reopening their doors.
I direct and announce as follows.
In his 12th national address, President Uhuru Kenyatta extended the nationwide curfew imposed to contain the spread of the coronavirus pandemic by 60 days, but changed the timing to 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. effective Tuesday.
The nationwide dusk to dawn curfew will run from 11 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning.
The president also had good news for bottle lovers, lifting the ban on the sale of alcohol by bars and restaurants effective Tuesday, but the joints and eateries must close at 10 p.m.
And the prohibition against the sale of alcoholic drinks and beverages by ordinary restaurants and eateries shall stand vacated with effect from the 29th of September 2020. Unaweza kukunywa pombe, sawa.
But for learners, the wait is still on as the head of state made it clear that learning institutions will only reopen once the nation can fully guarantee their safety.
I really would plead with Kenyans, let us not focus ourselves on when schools will reopen, but how shall these schools open in a manner that protects our children and protects their lives and their health.
Churches and places of worship have also been given a go-ahead to admit a third of their congregation, with the number of those attending weddings and funerals increased from 100 to 200 participants.
That in line with the recommendations of the Interfaith Council, the permitted maximum size of religious gatherings is increased to 1/3 of its normal sitting capacity, but with strict adherence to all applicable guidelines and protocols issued by the Ministry of Health.
President Kenyatta, however, warned that should the country witness a spike of new coronavirus cases, he won't hesitate to escalate containment measures, warning the political class that they stand to blame for ignoring measures put in place to fight the coronavirus pandemic. Suleiman Yeri, Channel One News.
Stakeholders attending the national conference on COVID-19 have called upon Kenyans not to lower their guards, saying the country is still ill-prepared in the event of a second wave of the COVID-19 disease. The experts say despite gains made in the last 6 months of response to the pandemic, the country's healthcare system remains fragile, and gains made so far could easily be lost if Kenyans continue to behave normally. Purity Museo with that report.
Stakeholders from the country's entire spectrum trooped to the KICC in Nairobi for the first of its kind national conference on COVID-19 pandemic to assess the country's response to the pandemic.
The important things are still very expensive. I mean, even just getting them here. The fact that if we can produce them here, we'll be able to meet that demand.
However, Kenyans were reminded that the country had not yet won the war against the deadly COVID-19 disease, despite the recent reduction in infections.
The possibility of a second wave of this pandemic is real, as we have seen in other countries. As an affirmation that the enemy is still within our borders, we continue to record new infections every day, even as we speak. And in that regard, to forestall what is happening elsewhere, we must continue adhering to the protocols issued by the Ministry of Health.
Who has been at the forefront in breaching the rules in the fight against COVID? Is it us? Me being one of them? And if so, then what can we do so that we as the fault lines can be curbed so that Kenyan lives can be saved?
The president cautioned that the significant drop in infections from 13% in June to 4% in September was not a license for Kenyans to start behaving normally.
With these figures, we can all be tempted to celebrate, more so because we are now below the 5% positivity rate recommended by the World Health Organization for reopening. Yet these achievements are a paradox in themselves.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe urged Kenyans to embrace the new normal since the virus would be around for long.
We have built substantial capacity. We are talking about nearly 400 beds that we now have across the country. And I'm talking about ICU beds. From 0 isolation beds, we are talking over 7,000 isolation beds across the country. We are talking about health workers who have been out there, and community health workers who have been out there visiting people in their homes and so on.
The stakeholders further called for an economic recovery strategy.
There's too much concern about consumption, taking away from the national cake and expanding the national cake. This itself is actually a recipe for disaster.
Deliberations at the National COVID-19 Conference will guide the country into the new normal. The ball has now been thrown into the hands of Kenyans to strictly follow the containment measures to prevent a possibility of a second wave. Purity Museo, Channel 1 News at KICC, Nairobi.
Some parents now say they feel overwhelmed by the demands of the impending resumption of learning in the country. The parents say they have been forced to move their children between schools as learning institutions continue to make last-ditch efforts to meet COVID-19 guidelines. The parents expressed their concerns even as public school teachers reported back to work on Monday.
Customil is among some 124 private schools that have been forced to shut operations as the effects of COVID-19 continues to bite learning institutions. For Mama Maya, the closure of Customil has meant that she must find a new school for her daughter, a decision she says will force her to part with more money.
The other headache is just thinking about uniforms, multiple pairs of uniforms, new books, thinking about how she will socialize with a new friend. It's just something that we've not been able to put our head around it, but I know change is inevitable. We will just have to go through this.
Some private schools like Ruaraka Academy have been fortunate enough to survive the economic downturn by leveraging on technology.
So Sean, you are late. So let me repeat again because of Sean.
John Kagake says the school is well prepared to meet the COVID-19 guidelines issued by the Ministry of Education. At Uhuru Estate Primary School, the staff is meeting to wrap their heads around the safety guidelines ahead of the reopening of learning institutions.
It's better if we have a full reopening, so that we move as one unit come 2021.
At Huruma Girls High School, teachers heeded the government's directive, turning up in school just like thousands of their colleagues countrywide. In Moranga, the management of St. Joseph the Worker School says it is keen on social distancing. In Kiambu, teachers in private schools called on the government to help them meet the stipulated COVID-19 guidelines.
Kuna mahara ambapo unachukua sanitizer, unasanitize mikono, na pia ukiingia huko maofisi ndani, kwa kila ofisi kuna sanitizer.
The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers says many schools will struggle to meet the government guidelines. KUPPET says there is need for more stakeholders meeting. KUPPET says there is need for more stakeholders engagement to ensure there is a seamless resumption of learning in the country. Studies conducted earlier by varied organizations argued that delay in reopening of schools will end the spread of COVID-19 and save lives. Parents, teachers, and society at large will now have to comply to COVID-19 prevention measures and learn to live with the situation. Irene Mchuma Odim, Channel 1 in the county of Nairobi.
Patients seeking services at the Kenyatta National Hospital will now have to look elsewhere after staff at the country's largest referral hospital made good their threat to down tools. The employees are lamenting failure by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to authorize the implementation of salaries review 8 years after the parastatal was elevated from 3C status to 7A. They are now calling on President Uhuru Kenyatta to intervene in the standoff with the SRC.
On Monday morning, patients who turned up at the Kenyatta National Hospital seeking services were left stranded after staff went on strike.
Kuamkia leo daktari ananiambia nikuje by 7 kufika, nimepata wametoka, nikikutana nao ananiambia leo tufanye kazi. Wenzetu wakituona tukifanya kazi wanaweza leta shida kati yao. Sasa wakaniambia weka hapo nje hadi yenye tutamaliza kuongea na serikali.
Tulifika hapa Kenyatta around 7:30 and since that time tumekuwa hapa, hakuna mwenye anatuatendia. The doctors wako huko na wagonjwa wetu wako ward, so we can't see them or tupati any gate pass. So tumekuwa tu hapa kuanzia 7 and they're not doing anything.
Led by leaders from various workers' unions, the staff-maintained services at the institution will not resume until Salaries and Remuneration Commission authorizes the KNH management to effect necessary changes.
Tulipo M-Pesa leo ama tukae kufanya kazi. Pili, SRC iko na uhuru ya kuja kufanya kazi.
They took issue with the SRC for dragging its feet over the matter even after Parliament approved budgetary proposals to effect the same from the National Treasury.
Tunaambia SRC, sisi hatutarudi nyuma mpaka tuone barua addressed to the CEO Kenyatta National Hospital saying, we advise you to do what? We advise you to do what?
So if SRC is the obstacle, then they are solely responsible for what is happening. No one else, SRC. Na tumechoka na huu mchezo wa paka na panya na SRC.
The aggrieved employees are now calling upon the head of state to intervene in the matter.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable Mwikai Uhuru Kenyatta, we beseech you as the workers of Kenyatta National Hospital to look into our plight and use your executive powers to alleviate this problem.
Kenyatta National Hospital parastatal status was recategorized from 3C to 7A in 2012 and the harmonization of staff benefits began thereafter. However, 8 years later, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission maintains the employees will have to be subjected to job evaluation before their salaries and allowances are reviewed.
To the corridors of justice now, Sirisia Member of Parliament John Waluke has been released on a 10 million shilling bail. Waluke, who has been in prison for 3 months, was set free by Justice John Onyego, who ruled that there was no sufficient grounds to deny the lawmaker bail. The MP had been found guilty of defrauding the National Cereals Board of 300 million shillings alongside his co-accused Grace Wahungu. Meanwhile, Nakuru East Member of Parliament David Kikaria has been arrested for leading a demonstration within Nakuru town.
Waluke can now breathe freedom, though he is not out of the hook yet. The lawmaker who appealed against the sentence got temporary reprieve on Monday after Justice John Oyengo freed him on a 10 million shillings cash bail. Justice Oyengo ruled that there was no sufficient grounds to deny the lawmaker bail. The bail was granted pending the determination of an appeal filed at the High Court by the MP. Waluke has been in jail for the last 3 months after the Anti-Corruption Court found him guilty of defrauding National Cereals Produce Board 300 million shillings alongside his co-accused Grace Wahungu and was sentenced to 67 years in prison or a fine of 707 million shillings. Wahungu was also granted cash bail of 20 million shillings. Meanwhile, 10 aliens who are believed to be Ethiopian nationals have been deported and being arraigned before a mayoral court. In mitigation, the 10 claimed they were fleeing hardship in their country to Nairobi, where they could get jobs and live a good life. Finally, Nakuru East Member of Parliament David Gikaria has been arrested and is being held at the Central Police Station in Nakuru Town. The MP is alleged to have led a demonstration within Nakuru Town, interrupting normal activities. Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
Thank you very much, Timothy Kipnusu, for that report. Channel 1 News Hour takes a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We still have plenty more lined up for you.
People gonna say all kind of things about you. With them on, just shake up your man. Tumushiye one done, tumushiye one. When your booty got show me now. Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180. Crazy. Trago ya la botella. Let's go. Ha. I needed some with some bop in it. Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you. Choro, 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 choro. Te pago, te pago, te pago. Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe. Tekenya katoto, kamini tekenya, tekenya katoto.
Next on.
What? What do you mean Fabiola has gotten married? Well, I don't know. I just found out myself. I have no details. I can't justify what she's done. But she did it based on the assumption that you ran off with Sophia.
Really, Jorge?
I'm not saying anything other than the truth.
This is a huge opportunity for me.
Just admit it, Andrea. You're running away with your boyfriend, period.
Why don't you go home, Jorge?
So I have nowhere to...
Yes. You don't have to ask. This is your house, too. And
Mother?
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
A very good evening to you. If you're just joining us, this is Channel 1 News Hour. My name is Edward Kabasa. The National Assembly Security Committee has taken a swipe at politicians opposed to the second phase of the Huduma number registration, saying they should not be scared of transparency. Elsewhere, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka says they will not support any presidential candidate other than their own come the 2022 general election.
The National Assembly Security Committee has come to the defense of the government planned rollout of Huduma number registration, terming those against it as saboteurs of the president's development agenda.
If you fundamentally disagree with the government policy, just ship out. It is very difficult to work within a government that you don't trust, and you cannot work with that government.
The committee's chairperson, Paul Koinange, refuted claims by a section of the political class that the exercise is part of a larger scheme to rig election in 2022.
We want to condemn the inciting utterances made by some members of the so-called Tangatanga Brigade over the weekend against Huduma number by giving distorted information, thereby threatening our national security.
This is an exercise that we will see to completion. This is an exercise that will ensure that all our Kenyans are given equal rights in terms of services, so that we don't have imbalances caused by people deliberately.
The data from Huduma number first phase, who knows where that data is? Who knows what it is being used on, or where it's being used, or what it is being used for? And we ask pertinent questions. The law is very clear that as a Kenyan, I have a right to know how and where my data will be put into use.
Meanwhile, Wiper Democratic Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has said the party will no longer be taken as a political prisoner by any other party or coalition. Speaking during the official opening of the first Wiper Party regional offices in Mombasa, Kalonzo said the party is ready for 2022 election and it will field its own presidential candidate after years of supporting other parties. He has urged those seeking elective positions in the next general election to focus on development and have people interest at heart.
Safari hii nimesema nitarudia, hakuna mchezo. Safari hii we are not playing second fiddle to anybody. Miaka 10 ya kusaidia ndugu Raila si imetosha.
Finally, the political party's liaison committee, Women Caucus, want the head of state to act as per the advisory of Chief Justice David Maraga and dissolve parliament for failing to enact the 2/3 gender rule.
For us as women, we look forward to witnessing a momentous action and gain for our nascent democracy.
The leaders defended the Chief Justice, saying Parliament has failed to adapt various formulas placed before it numerous times, and it was now time hard decisions are taken. Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
And in other matters, business in Nakuru town came to a standstill for the better part of Monday as Matatu operators clashed with police over a ban on public service vehicles within the central business district. The operators, who engaged the police in running battles, barricaded roads and lit bonfires in response to their continued lockout from the CBD, accusing Governor Lee Kinyanjui of being insensitive to their plight.
Such were the scenes that characterized business in Nakuru town Monday. A move by the county government to decongest the central business district being met with defiance from Matatu operators. Passengers traveling to Nakuru were forced to alight at Section 58, trekking for 1 kilometer to town as motorists opted to change route to avoid being caught in the protest.
Naivasha stage rudi kila mahali hata Nairobi. Nashindwa kwani Nakuru kuna shida gani ambayo tuna hatujui, hatujaelezwa kwamba maybe kama basi atuambie Kenya anataka kutoka kwa sisi.
Matatu operators say the move to eject them from the CBD was ill-informed and has left them disenfranchised. On Sunday, Governor Lee Kinyanjui called for patience among the operators, saying the ban was meant to allow the county build a new modern stage equipped with amenities. The operators accused the county government of being insensitive to the economic challenges, demanding that they be allowed back into the central business district.
Hatuna mbele wala nyuma, tunaomba tu uhuru, tusikize tu. Sisi tunakasirika na Ri lazima aende, hatumtaki hapa Nakuru.
Timothy Kipnusu for Channel 1 News.
The Nairobi Metropolitan Services says it will partner with institutions that are willing to invest in real estate within its jurisdiction. Speaking at the launch of a mortgage scheme by Harambee Savings and Credit Cooperative Society, NMS Director General Major General Mohammed Badi said he will ensure that where such investments are set up, infrastructure and social amenities are availed. This, according to Badi, is in line with the government's objective of providing affordable housing.
Harambee Sacco becomes the first cooperative society to get a license from the Sacco Society Authority to offer mortgage facilities from its members. Under the new scheme, members will be able to borrow up to a maximum of 4 million shillings repayable in a period of up to 25 years. The new venture targeted at over 73,000 members of the Sacco.
The first challenge I was facing was getting a good financier, because right now in the market, the interest rate for mortgage is a bit high. But now, since I'm a member of Harambee Sacco, when they launched this project, I'm able to benefit from it at a low interest.
Harambee Sacco will have financed up to 600 units at a total cost of 3 billion. And I am certain that we are now at all systems go. Today, we'll be handing over the first application of that mortgage product.
Harambee Sacco National Chairman MacLeod Malonza says the mortgage is tailored to help members acquire housing, which is not only a basic need, but a lifetime investment.
The journey of giving a member keys to a brand new home or helping them build a home from scratch for their families is one of the most fulfilling aspects and concern of this institution.
Malonza said members will be at liberty to turn their investment into cash if they so wish. Speaking during the launch of the scheme initiated by Harambee Sacco, Nairobi Metropolitan Service Director General Major General Mohammed Badi says mortgage facilities in the country is a step towards the actualization of the Big Four agenda of access to affordable housing that is being driven by the state.
In a great challenge to most middle and low income people, this initiative by Harambee Sacco to provide mortgage scheme for its members, who are mainly civil servants, is highly commendable. This scheme is being launched at a time when the government is also implementing affordable housing under the Big Four agenda.
Badi said the move by the Sacco was a major milestone in the cooperative sector mortgage portfolio, and that he will help such venture by ensuring infrastructure and other social amenities are availed in areas where such investments are set up to make the beneficiaries comfortable.
Over 300 youth at the Shikusa Bosto Institution in Kakamega County will be able to acquire digital skills courtesy of a donation of computers from the Safaricom Foundation. More on this and other stories in our county news roundup.
Safaricom Foundation has donated 30 computers to Shikusa Bosto Institution in Kakamega County to facilitate digital learning for over 300 youth detained at the facility. The internet-enabled computers are aimed at enhancing the ICT literacy and research skills of the juvenile offenders as they look to reintegrate into society.
You have an opportunity to study, you have an opportunity to reform your behavior, you have an opportunity to go back and integrate in society. This is not a prison. This is an institution that empowers you to be better into the future.
And a handbook on access to information for journalists has been launched by the Media Council of Kenya in partnership with the Commission on Administrative Justice. The publication was unveiled in Nairobi during celebrations to mark the International Day and will enhance awareness among journalists' access to information from different government organizations.
Journalists need to have a guideline or a framework within which they can operate, so that when they seek for information from public institutions, they know from the manner in which they should get that information, and if that information is denied, then how to ensure that through the commission the information is released. Some institutions and some officers are threatening not to release information, and that we've agreed with the Media Council that it's something that the commission is going to pick up and ensure that it works.
Meanwhile, sugarcane farmers in Mumias under the Kenya Sugarcane Growers Association have formally begun the legal process of being enjoined in a compensation petition involving Crossley Holdings and an expansive land. Crossley Holdings is seeking to be paid about 10.5 billion shillings as a compensation for damage of the 11-acre land, a move the farmers oppose.
These communities should have a say on their land. These communities have not benefited from their land. They gave out their land for a factory to be built, and now there is no factory there.
Elsewhere, residents of Ruiru, Kiambu County are decrying the rising cases of insecurity in the region and are calling on relevant authorities to intervene. Ruiru legislator Simon Kingara, in the meantime, is urging border operators in the region to work closely with security agents so as to stem rising crime.
Lakini la muhimu ni kujua ndio hata wanabodaboda watabulike, ni vizuri hata wao wajitambue na wajue ile kazi wanafanya ni kazi ya maana, ni kazi ya heshima, ni kazi inatakiwa kuwa na utaratibu, ni kazi inatakiwa kuangalia usalama wa nchi kwa jumla.
Finally, a family in Musiebi village, Matayos, Busia County, has been left in shock after the sudden demise of their kin who allegedly took his own life. The body of Raymond Barasa, a class 4 pupil at St. Jude Primary School, was found hanging from the ceiling of his bedroom. Police have launched investigations into his death.
Ili mnapotea leo mtu asitoke hapa. Kila mtu akae tu hapa kwa bomu. Sasa labda hiyo ndio ilikuwa shida, alikuwa anasikia uchungu, lakini hakuna kitu ambao aliongea na mama yake, hakuna kitu ambao ongea na ndugu yake. Ndugu yake ndiye amepata kama anining'inia.
Hata mimi nilikuwa napika mboga. Nikasema wacha nioge mapema kama mvua bado. Sasa kwenda kuoga kurudi. Naingia kwa jikoni tena kusongesha moto yenye nimewacha. Huyu kadogo kanakuja kuniambia, mama nikwambie kwa fulani amejinyonga. Amejinyonga aje? Kuja nikupeleke. Tukaenda pa kwa nyumba kwa bedroom yao, huwa wanalala. Kamba imekatika, ameanguka chini.
Let's take a look at some business news now. The government has extended tax incentives that were effected in April to ease the harsh economic impact of the coronavirus pandemic on Kenyans. President Uhuru Kenyatta says the lower VAT rate of 14% will apply until the end of June next year, while the working class will be taxed at the lower pay-as-you-earn rate of 25% until the end of this year.
On Monday, President Uhuru Kenyatta announced reduced curfew hours and other measures aimed at stimulating economic activity. The president further extended tax breaks that were effected in April this year to cushion Kenyans from the harsh economic shocks caused by implementation of measures to contain the spread of COVID-19. Among this is reduced VAT that will be retained at 14% until the end of June next year.
That the National Treasury considers retaining the VAT at 14% until the 1st of July 2021.
Those earning higher salaries will also continue paying a lower pay-as-you-earn of at most 25% for the next 3 months, with those earning a gross income of up to 24,000 enjoying 100% tax relief over the same period.
That the National Treasury considers retaining the income tax rates pay-as-you-earn at 25% until the 1st of January 2021.
In measures aimed at boosting the SME sector, the turnover tax will remain at 1% from 3% pre-COVID-19 period.
That to continue cushioning our micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, the National Treasury considers maintaining the reduction of the current turnover tax from 3% to 1% for all micro, small and medium-sized enterprises.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani says more incentives to investors are being drafted to revive the economy post-COVID-19.
We are looking to the future, and we have come up with a recovery process that's going to take us for the number of years, and we are going to look at the micro stability. We are going to look at resource mobilization, not from loans, but within by ensuring that the PPP works as expected.
Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Kenyans might be forced to dig deeper into their pockets for dairy products in coming months as milk production has been reducing. Livestock Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai blames this on low farm gate prices for milk, an outbreak of foot and mouth disease in parts of the Rift Valley, and recent increase in animal feeds, which has seen some farmers abandon dairy farming on concerns of high cost of production.
The government says it will not dictate the retail prices of milk in the country in the advent of reduced milk production in the country. Livestock Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai says low milk farm gate prices coupled with high cost of imported animal feeds, occasioned by COVID-19 related movement restrictions across the world, and the spread of foot and mouth diseases in parts of the Rift Valley have left dairy farmers on the edge, with some opting out of the business altogether due to the high cost of production.
That we leave it to the market forces, demand and supply, to ensure that the prices does not go up. We don't want the processors to exploit the consumers as well. So we are keeping track of that. We want the market forces to play demand and supply without influencing.
Negotiations on modalities to allow importation of milk from the US are ongoing, with the government pledging to protect the local dairy industry from unfair competition from the imported products.
Now we are now at the negotiations on issues of FTA. So we are going to take the concerns of the farmers and ensure that the farmers are protected as well.
To further ensure local animal products meet international standards, stakeholders have validated the animal health, veterinary health, and animal welfare bills that seeks to increase safety standards.
The Animal Protection and Welfare Bill is regulating how we care for our animals. With the passage of this bill, you will not see chicken being hanged on the carriers of Matatus.
The two bills also seek to improve efficiency in the livestock production value chain. Benson Diopa reporting for Channel 1 Business.
And in other business matters, over 70% of hotels in Nakuru County are back in operation after 7 months of closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Hoteliers in the area are calling on the Tourism Finance Corporation to fast-track the process of disbursement of government stimulus to the hoteliers.
Confirmation of the first Kenyan COVID-19 case in March this year saw the government recommend measures aimed at containing the spread of the virus that hit the hospitality industry hard. Most facilities were forced to close, with a few operating on very low capacity. Relaxation of the containment measures in June has seen several hotels restart operations. In Nakuru County, which has over 1,500 registered hotels and bars, hoteliers are banking on domestic tourists to keep them afloat.
See our hotel being open, but not the full inventory of staff that has come back. So we can say that it will take some time before we get back to where we were, if ever we will get back there.
The hoteliers are also calling on the Tourism Finance Corporation to fast-track the process of disbursement of a government stimulus that was announced to help the tourism industry get back on its feet.
Tusaidia hata hizo hotel to just pick up and make sure that we take care of our staff and our communities, because we have so many people who rely on the tourism industry. Tuko na suppliers wanapatia chakula, tuko na farmers wamepanda ndio watu wanunue vyakula, so it is a chain.
In Nyandarua, the county government is banking on the beauty of Ol Kalou Arboretum and potential investment opportunities to attract both tourists and investors.
Employment, currency exchange, imports and taxes are just a few of the ways that tourism can bring money into this destination.
Ol Kalou Arboretum, which is a unique green space preserved and maintained as an urban forest, sits on 79 acres of land, offering an ideal space for picnics, jogging, walking, or team building activities.
The National Irrigation Authority is constructing and rehabilitating water pans and large-scale irrigation projects in Kajiado County under the expanded National Irrigation Program. The authority's Lower Eastern Region Coordinator, Rafael Mutiso, says 10 water pans being constructed will each have a capacity of 100,000 cubic meters and will support production of tomatoes, onions, and maize.
In its medium-term transformative agenda, the National Irrigation Authority plans to construct 125,000 household water pans and 400 community water pans across the country. This is in a bid to boost farming activities in the country. In Kajiado County, the authority is scaling up irrigation activities by constructing 10 additional water pans across the vast arid and semi-arid area.
And distributed these particular projects in all the constituencies of the county. So far, the current projects that are ongoing are around 10 of this particular magnitude.
This is in addition to the already 548 household water pans that collectively hold 325,000 cubic meters with a potential to put 260 acres of farmland under irrigation.
By the end of the season, or before we go to the rain season, we are likely to harvest as much water as possible, around 1 million meter cubed of water.
The irrigation projects are expected to support production of onions, tomatoes, and maize.
Mapato ambayo hatukuwa naye ya kilimo tumeweza ipata. Hata unaona nyanya ambayo ziko hapa imeweza kutusaidia kwa hali na mali ya katika area hii ya Isinet Kalesirwa.
Farmers have been urged to tap into the irrigation projects to prop up income from pastoral activities.
And that is why we want to keep on encouraging farmers to adopt this system, because you will be able to plant your crops all season, whether it's dry or wet, as long as the establishment that we've put in place has harvested water.
Construction of water pans is part of irrigation projects initiated by the National Irrigation Authority in areas that include 2 large-scale irrigation projects in Entararara and in Sinet, covering a combined 1,150 acres. Benson Rioba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
And further afield, the COVID-19 pandemic is taking a heavy toll on jobs across the world, with workers suffering a massive drop in earnings. The latest report by the International Labour Organization, ILO, indicates that the global labor income shrunk by 10.7% or $3.5 trillion in the first 3 quarters of this year compared with the same period in 2019. Here are the details of this and other stories in our International Business News Roundup.
The International Labour Organization ILO indicates that labor income in low and middle income countries fell the most by 15.1%. From a regional perspective, the Americas were most affected with a decrease of 12.1%. The ILO report, which indicates that the global labor income shrunk by 10.7% or $3.5 trillion in the first 3 quarters of this year, does not include income support from the governments. The ILO report indicates that workers in developing countries and emerging economies, especially in the informal employment, were affected much more than in any previous crisis. The report holds that fiscal stimulus may effectively mitigate the labor market disruptions. Meanwhile, a U.S. federal judge has halted the Trump administration's ban on the popular video sharing app TikTok just few hours before the controversial ban was to take effect. TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance previously filed a request for a prem injunction against the action, which could prevent new downloads of the app and software updates for existing users. The federal judge's decision means the Los Angeles-based tech firm can now operate without interruption, at least until a full court hearing. In August, U.S. President Donald Trump issued an executive order banning U.S. transactions with TikTok and ByteDance after 45 days, citing national security concerns. Finally, Brazil's first monument to commemorate those killed by the COVID-19 epidemic was completed this week in Penitica Cemetery at the port area of Rio de Janeiro. Now, the monument is 39 meters in length and weighs about 3 tons, with the names of the deceased COVID-19 patients engraved on it as per the wishes of close relatives. Carissa Santos, the designer of the monument, came up with the idea after many people who lost their loved ones amid the outbreak were unable to give them a proper send-off due to the restrictions. After Santos came up with the idea of building the monument for the deceased, the idea garnered support of more than 50 designers across the country.
You are watching Channel 1 News Hour. Sports news is coming up next after this break.
Yote ndawai do iko tu sawa kwa macho yako.
Unataka kuwako?
Ati nini? Why are you people shouting?
Are you okay?
Mwanamke wewe ninakuona sana. Ni wanaume hapa Mombasa wameisha.
Ni nini mbaya? Nowadays we have so many unfaithful people.
What?
We need to talk about her every time we are together.
I'd be very careful the way you address me.
Zako zinakuangaje? Huwezi kaa dakika mbili hata bila kuteta.
You will all sign new contracts. And I am supposed to be briefed.
What? Sitaki ujinga.
Oof.
Gear up and maintain a healthy, fit and active lifestyle right there at home by keeping up with Gear Up on Channel 1, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Gear up every day for every moment, and remember to stay home and keep safe.
Welcome back to the program. Goalkeeper Arnold Origi has made a comeback to the national soccer team Harambee Stars after head coach Francis Kimanzi named his 34-man provisional squad for the team's upcoming friendly match against Zambia. The match, which is a build-up to the upcoming Back Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Comoros, has been scheduled for 10th of next month at the Kasarani Stadium.
Origi, who turns out for Finnish club HIFK Football, has been out of international football for 5 years. Barnsley defender Clark Oduor has also been handed a call-up. However, forward Michael Olunga, captain Victor Wanyama and midfielder Joanna Omolo may miss out on the final squad owing to the strict COVID-19 protocols imposed by the countries from which they ply their trade. The match, which is a build-up to the upcoming back-to-back Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Comoros, has been scheduled for 10th of next month at Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani, behind closed doors. Other players who have been named in the squad include midfielders Kenneth Muguna, Francis Kahata, Eric Johanna, Cliff Nyakea, Ayub Timbe, forwards Elvis Rupia, Masood Juma and Timothy Otieno. Frederick Mwoki for Channel 1 Sports.
Football Kenya Federation has been urged to consider its decision and renew Kenya Premier League limited mandate to run the top-tier league. FKF Nairobi NEC aspirant Tomalila says that FKF may lack the capacity to manage the top-tier league. He also called on the FKF Electoral Board to investigate claims of voter intimidation and bribery ahead of the national FKF elections. Alila has further said that he will take the matter back to Sports Dispute Tribunal should the board fail to act and calm the impending election stalemate. National FKF elections are set to be held on the 17th of next month in Nairobi.
Of Kenya Premier League, the issue needs to be checked properly. Kenya Premier League must be left to run their affairs on their own. This issue of federation meddling in the affairs of Kenya Premier League should work under FKF, and their contract need to be extended so that they can run their league on their own. So that if there's a problem, you can be able to point out that the problem came from this other side. So I support strongly Kenya Premier League contract being extended, but under FKF.
Gor Mahia has completed the signing of striker Dixon Raila from Masawa FC, a lower division side from Kisumu. Raila has penned a 4-year deal contract and will be joining the attack line, which includes Benson Omala, Nicholas Kipkiroi, Clinton Okoth, and Burundian Jules Ulimwengu. It will be interesting to watch the commentary as the name Raila is called out. Let us take a look at some international sports news now. Manchester United made contact with the France midfielder N'Golo Kante's advice is about a move from Chelsea, but any deal is dependent on the 29-year-old taking a big pay cut on his £300,000 a week wages in the summer transfer window. So far, Manchester United have only managed to sign a midfielder in the form of Danny van der Beek. It is claimed that the Old Trafford club want to add more strength to their midfield, and the Stamford Bridge outfit are looking to get at least £50 million from Kante's departure. Kante was a key member of the Leicester City squad that won the English Premier League title 4 years ago. The season after that, he was awarded the Professional Footballers Association Player of the Year prize for helping Chelsea win the title. All right, that does it for us for this edition of Channel 1 News Hour. We do thank you very much for keeping us company. You can stay up to date with breaking news on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 and more news on our website, www.kbc.co.ke. On behalf of the team here, that includes my sign language interpreter Lenso Dingo, my name is Edward Kabasa. Irene Muchuma Odim is up next with the weather forecast.
Glad you have joined us on Channel 1 Weather Updates. I hope you're well today. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. Tonight, Narok County is the coldest. Temperatures stand at 11 degrees Celsius. Most parts of the country have been covered with partly cloudy conditions, but there are showers accompanied by thunderstorms in the county of Kisumu and especially around the lake. There are also showers of a few places in the county of Nairobi and counties around the region. And that is how the nights will be. So how will it be tomorrow? It will be sunny during the morning hours over most parts of the country, though there will be wet conditions of a few places in the counties of Meru and Nyeri. It will be sunny in the capital, the northeastern, the northwestern, the Lake Basin region, and western sector will mainly experience sunny intervals during the morning hours. For you in Machakos and counties around the region, also at the coastal strip, expect sunny intervals to mainly prevail during the morning hours, and this will change during the afternoon hours. There will be showers accompanied by thunderstorms over the western parts of the country, and these will mainly affect Kitale, Kakamega, Bungoma, and Narok areas. Also Nakuru will be affected during the afternoon hours. The northeastern, the northwestern, Machakos and counties around the region, and the coastal strip will mainly experience sunny intervals during the afternoon hours. The highest temperatures across the country will be experienced in Mandera, and that will be at 38 degrees Celsius. The capital will experience highs of 26 degrees Celsius. And for you in Kisumu, expect highs of 28 degrees Celsius. And on that note, let's now cross the borders and have a look at the international forecast. Do have a good night. See you tomorrow, God willing.